#1 player on E-League. I know that might not mean a lot to you casual fans, but that is actually super impressive, especially considering the region he came from, the birthplace of StarCraft esports.
Korea. Did indeed. Now, of course, that basically means that he's been incredibly consistent. League records all those online tournaments, even off the offline tournaments, and he has been crushing it, getting big wins against big names. And Nightshade is going to be our first map here. How do you feel about this one in TVP? I actually quite like it as a Terran player.
Actually, the maps, I mean, have kind of been evened out. You know, I was checking out the statistics on Wikipedia, and it was like, some are better than others, but they've all kind of evened out. I mean, I think primarily you're going to talk about the, like, of course, there is still a rush distance issue, as we do have some Terrans. I believe we had a match today, actually, where the Nightshade's actually not that long. Utilize it to do a push. And the combat shield push, actually, it was Mario.
That's right,
yeah,
it was
exactly.
Mario.
So that does factor into some of the decision-making, although Kira not showing as aggressive tendencies as our boy Maru. And then also some of the open concaves that can happen in the middle of the map have actually ruined Protosses who depend on those small but very important units like Colossus and High Templars. They get surrounded. Disruptors as well, they get surrounded. Not looking so hot anymore.
At the moment, everything looks pretty standard for both players. A Reaper fast expand from the Terran. SOS started a Zealot, cancelled it, but he still went for a Cybercore before Nexus, so a little bit more.
Well, just because Stalkers do outrange any of these units if they're alone. So you don't want to be picked off. We're going to go into Banshees as well, so not necessarily into something that would protect him in the mid-game. Should there be anything a little bit trickier than just a typical 3-base Blink opener? As he goes into Banshees, though, now it's on him to get some damage with that as he delays what could have been, it could have been a Raven, it could have been faster 2 Barracks. You see that a lot, right? And that's always the question, like, can Banshees do it? The answer is usually yes, just because they hide somewhere, they double up somewhere, and they actually do damage.
Also, I haven't really seen any Stargate or Robo from SOS just yet.
It should be a Robo.
It should be a Robo, but
Soon.
but
Soon.
It ain't here. And if cloaked things show up when you don't have detection, that's oftentimes, very, very bad.
That's a very nice scout. He did see the Tech Lab being added on, looks like, I think, with the Adept earlier, but then that could have been, he might have missed the information of the 2 Barracks being put down too, and that was going to be a swap off, so that's a good confirmation there with Lucid Phoenix. There it does come down the Robo, which makes a lot of sense. Additional gateways should also be coming down as he can afford them, but also shield batteries. Some players, like, I think when Banshees work, it's because the Protoss players like, it's Banshees, I can deal with that, and then they underestimate them, right?
Yeah, the Banshee is one of those units that's very stylistic. There's not a ton of Terrans out there at this level that like to use them in this matchup, but they certainly can just find damage if you don't respect them. Shield battery's going up for SOS as well, so that also really shuts down Banshees. The Banshee does a little bit more damage than the shields of the Probe, but it takes a long time.
That is
That's a charge lot attack here.
Yeah, there's no forges coming down, guys, but lots of gateways instead. The Banshee might get a little bit of a hint of this, right? She sees a lot of gateways going down, but not necessarily any forges. They could be elsewhere.
Ooh.
But this Reaper is also going to get into the 3rd base and see that there's no 3rd gas taken. So at the very least, very charge out heavy. But then with the combination of the Banshee and the main, he might have an idea what's going on. Kure going for a fast 3rd CC, does not have a lot of units right now, but rather dependable units in a choke that can help out.
This is not looking like the Terran has picked up what SOS is putting down, which is a lot of gateways, charge, and gearing up for a big attack timing. There are 2 forges on the way here for SOS, I guess, just in case. He made a lot of gateways, though.
I think there's also the consideration that when you do open with Banshees, they can come with a push on the ground and actually accommodate the push on the ground, either by distracting Stalkers to the main base or by just providing DPS on the front lines. So that can be a scary thing to think about. But even if you're not necessarily scared about that push, having this faster charge, especially with a Warp Prism, I'm actually really glad to see the Warp Prism, you can really start to pull the Terran apart because their stim is delayed. That 3rd CC is down, going to try and go on location eventually. And then, yeah, behind it you can get those upgrades. But first and foremost, you have the possibility of a push or just a harassment, actually.
He hasn't started any upgrades until just now as I start that sentence. But we've seen Trap actually do exactly this. Go for no gases in any of the natural or the 3rd. It's just 2 gases completely here for the Protoss. So that slows down splash damage, etc. I feel like a Trap at this point had better upgrades. Like his 1-1 was done and he was heading towards 2-2.
SOS.
SOS.
You said Trap.
Trap against Mara.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Then he would have been okay.
Yeah, he would have been okay. Big charge lot flood here into that natural. The tank's exposed. They get on top of them.
That's actually looking pretty nasty. The amount of charge thoughts, exactly what SOS was thinking. Dive on top of the tanks. The Marines really can't do anything about it either without that stim. And SOS takes a powerful little attack here. He does have a War Prism, so while he's losing his probes on the other side of the map, not as many as Kira is losing SCVs, and his army has gone down. Is that just it?
Sometimes it just be like that, and it does look pretty bad for Curie's. SCV's being evacuated at this point. The Banshees are doing damage. One of them's out of juice, so she's going to be picked off. The other one very, very low on hit points as well, and on energy points. 25 SCVs have died. Cure's natural broken wide open. SOS running all over him here with those charge lots.
Yeah, this, I mean, this seemed like a very good idea from SOS. That's kind of what I was talking about. Like, yeah, you could definitely break that tank. There's no stim. And he apparently knew this would really work out, whereas Cure, I think, just a little bit cavalier on the forefront like that, trying to defend that third CC, not utilizing a choke as much as possible, obviously not behind any type of bunker, and just a little unawares, too. Didn't have actually any preparation before the charge that suddenly just enveloped him. A Marine on the front line. Seeing that warping could have been a big difference. So much for those upgrades.
So much for those upgrades, and I think so much for Cure. He is holding on, but I don't see a comeback here. I do like the Widowmine drop. That is something. But how do you actually stop SOS containing you at this point?
I don't know if you do, and SOS might just be following up with those Colossus we saw he used against TY here, which Kira would really have no answer about. Like, he doesn't even have that high of a Marauder count. The Widowmines are not really going to get that comeback damage he was perhaps hoping for. You get to, like, yeah, he had a faster third CC than some other builds that Terrans have, I guess, but this is just a tremendous amount of damage. He not only had his SCVs killed, he had 2 orbitals lifted and is all holed up in his man.
Yeah, SOS containing Cure pretty hard here, and Cure trying to move down a little bit to give him a little bit of room for those Widowmines to actually help him out, but the Stalkers outrange them and they do pick them up one at a time. And that command center for a little bit of vision, but SOS just continues to trade, and in come those charge lots, drops the force field to try and stop the Bio Army retreat. Hot pick up there from Cure, trying to do everything he can with what little he has, but it is, on the emphasis, a little.
Yeah, he doesn't even have the upgrades, you know. At some points you got to recognize that that bio does look a little bit better, but not here. Not without upgrades, not without that medevac, and not without a better army supply. The other medevac goes down here. Kira is just so unwilling to lead because he knows that every map matters.
Yeah, I mean, I don't fault him for it whatsoever, as SOS tightens his chokehold here on Cure. It's being contained on one base while the Protoss enjoys 52 probes worth of mining on 3 bases. GG, SOS bleeds him out for game number 1.
Yeah.
Cannon Rush series against CJ Hero.
Pretty good first place victory. In the bottom right, as the Blue Terran, he is Cure.
He's been looking better and better. Making it to the, I believe, the top 8 of Home Story Cup 20, which is a pretty amazing showing. Beating Parting there to earn that spot in a 6-game best of 5. So they did have one draw, had to be replayed. I think it was an Ephemeron. But that was a really, really incredible series. And his best showing yet at a tournament that stacked.
Yeah, I guess that would be the case. It's always a little bit weird with the Home Story Cup because it is almost right after that patch.
Yes, and it's also basically a beach party.
Yeah, there's
not the cool and esportsy environment of the GSL studio.
Yeah, a little bit different. But it just go to prove that Cure can perform offline, but perhaps the pressure is getting to him, or perhaps the matchup. It is so great, actually, that we started this day and ended this day with the TVP, and there were so many similarities. Like Cure, for instance, if he had gone for the thing that Maru did, the triple racks, kind of simple with a Raven, Maru was actually winning that game, guys. I know there's a little bit of an awkward thing there, but then I went over it, right, on the TV. Like, Maru was winning that game. He did okay against Trap when he did go for the 2-gas style, and then the other things happened. But anyways, like, yeah, if Cure had done that, we'd be talking about a very different game. We'd probably still be in the first game.
All the way? Really?
I think so.
After 10 hours? We'd still be there?
Yeah, yes, literally the first game. Not the first game of the series, man.
That is a long day.
Yeah.
Long game. All right, Pro being tucked down to the south side again. SOS up to his old tricks. Speaking of which, Cure really nestling that factory hidden away from that wall there. Interesting.
Yeah. Generally, like, you don't want to give a surprise probe scout, because sometimes they send it back in at a weird time, You don't want to give that the scout, so you put the factory a little far back, but to actually put it that far back, I do wonder if there's anything a little bit more suspicious on the way. There is that probe timing I was talking about that can be so surprising. Reaper actually managed to dodge out the Adept. Pylon once again proxied, could be used for something. Oh, Reaper's got 2 probes already. Oh no, that's including the scouting SCV or probe.
One on the Reaper, one on the SCVs. Doing it for themselves here in tandem.
They don't need no Reaper. Oh, well, okay, so he's going to be producing a Hellion, but that might just be because the Reaper is on the other side of the map, and he saw the Adepts not come back to defeat it, so he's like a little worried, but CC is stalled out. Reaper could come back home to try and help out, but the Marine Hellion production usually takes care of it too.
So multiple gateways going down here for SOS before the Twilight Council. He does want to go that path. I am getting ahead of myself here. I know the SOS likes Twilight Council. He goes for Robo, so he is going for something a bit different.
Oh, all right then. Something with gateways and a warp prism. I mean, is this SOS? There's a parting. No, like it's actually. I mean, this is Trap was going for Twilight Council with one gateway as well. Just 2 gateways total is what I mean. But oh, this is so much more important than whatever the Protoss is doing. The heck with Protoss. Kira's going for a fusion core.
He certainly is, Zombie Grub. That is interesting. So this is why Cure is nestling these buildings away into the corner here. So it seems like he wants to go for battle cruisers.
Ooh, that actually could work. There was a open or closed qualifier match where a battlecruiser opener, I mean, I was laughing at it, I was watching, I was kind of laughing at it, and then suddenly it actually worked. 10 minutes later, there's 12 battlecruiser.
You know, it's one of those things that if in the early game you don't have 6 Stalkers chasing around with Blink, it actually can be really effective. And like we just talked about before, Twilight Council means no Blink, Zombie Grub. And I gotta say, anything that comes out of Robo, Robotics Bay even, none of those things shoot up.
Yeah, I mean, luckily you can get an observer, and hopefully it sees this. But, well, I believe an observer was just made. He actually needs to get it across the map and past any eagle eye scans from Cure as well. Robotics Bay on the way. Cure or SOS thinking about typical things. Cure's going to get a check on that too. Might get all the way back to see the Robotics Bay. He's close. He's close.
Just on the edge of that Robotics Bay. Yeah. Might have just missed it. Vision of the Reaper is pretty huge.
There's a battlecruiser. Look at that.
Battlecruiser, there it is. Ain't it gorgeous? Yeah, he missed that Robotics Bay there. The Vision of the Reaper not quite good enough.
He did,
SOS is getting that Prism up, and I mean, you know, could go for something meaty here. He is getting Prism speed, so potentially Disruptors or Colossus Drop. I wish that Colossus Drop wasn't a thing, but it is. I've seen it at the very high level. Feels like a weird thing to do in Game 2, though, in a very important series.
And also, probably terrible against battlecruisers. He saw a tech club on that, but he might be thinking Banshees, which, I mean, maybe you get a shield battery against both of those, maybe Warping and Stalkers against both of those, but Banshees, they go down when they're found. Battlecruisers do not. You're supposed to have a lot versus that battlecruiser to shut it down before it kills all your probes.
And SOS still continuing with his build here, scratching his head as to what the Terran is up to. Cure's done a great job denying the observers here with his army. BC #1 is about to finish. Tactical jump engines ready to kick in.
He's going to go for more battlecruisers as well. Oh, this is going to be very interesting, because I think he also knows that it's going to be the Colossus, by the way, because he saw the gases, like, so it wasn't really necessary to see the Robotics Bay. I'm thinking he's pretty happy with this opener, but that doesn't mean that a battlecruiser opener wins here. The fact is that Stalkers do okay against battlecruisers, so if you can warp in any decent amount, which look at that, SOS already has, then it's going to be shoot away. But when it's suddenly 2 battlecruisers when you're not expecting it with Yamato, that's when you're like, oh, do I just not have enough anti-air?
Well, you know what? Without a battlecruiser back at home, this Speed Prism Colossus drop actually looks like it's going to be relatively effective here. Stuff's getting weird.
Like, I'm okay, that's not supposed to happen. No, but this actually might need to be on the other side of the map, just helping against the ground. Obviously, it can't help against the battlecruiser, but it might be able to help against the Marines. A tank pops out, and that will be hard for Colossus to take care of. SOS should have a recall, I would imagine, but I don't think he saw the army moving out.
No, I don't think so.
I think at this point he's wondering where it is, but nothing actually. Oh, Cure scans ahead and he sees the army not there waiting for him. In fact, an Immortal pops out. Hello and goodbye.
Yeah, that Immortal dying is a big deal if it does go down. SOS trying to pull back from the tanks. He's still in range. He pulls back there. Oh my god, that Colossus is still killing so many SCVs.
How did he get that Immortal? It actually managed to crab walk its way out of there. Second battlecruiser pops out. Yamato is still going to be on the way. Can he actually get the Warp Prism before it escapes?
No, Yamato. He's trying to get it.
He wants it. 15 seconds.
Oh man, I mean, if he can get a Yamato on that Prism, SOS knows, so he's out of there. That Prism speed is quite decent. SOS just needs to keep warping in Stalkers, keep warping in Immortals here. He's actually recalled the Prism with the Colossus inside of it. I think that's a great call from SOS to help out with these Marines.
Ooh, wouldn't mind helping against the Immortal. Still not quite dead, and the Colossus so weak, still being micro, but that does go down. The battlecruiser is taking on the rest of the ground army. It looks like Guardian Shield very helpful right now, but still a couple of tanks left over for Cure.
I'm actually relatively certain that Cure missed tactical jumped his battlecruiser there. I think he wanted a Yamato. He just sent it into the middle of the battle. In it comes in, another battlecruiser coming in from home. The tank moving forward there for Cure. The Marines hurt, but still pushing forward. Very tense moment here. Second BC nearly here.
Oh, the Immortal takes out the tank, but is that going to be enough? Another battlecruiser's almost here. Cure still with enough mules, and SCV's back at home to continue at least a little bit of a rally. And SCVs absolutely should be coming forward too to repair these big, bad battlecruisers. Third battlecruiser about to come over.
3 BCs is actually a lot here for SOS to deal with. He doesn't have enough gateway production to get enough Stalkers out to actually kill them all. And this Colossus is very useless. It can get the SCVs at least, but none of this shoots up apart from Stalkers.
I mean, it might be a production issue right now. He's also trying to get charge and +1, perhaps seeing a further game possibility. It could get very weird, but 3 battlecruisers, that is what's so important here.
The tank as well, being covered by the BCs. SOS needs to get right on top of all of this, but I don't know if he has the firepower, Zombie Grub.
I mean, the Colossus can't even really take out the SCVs. Something healing them, but the Colossus can only get so many shots before it's burned down, either by the tanks or by the battlecruisers. Goodbye third base. Raven is on the way, and anti-armor missile would be huge.
SOS is supply blocked.
Oh,
even if he wanted to, he can't produce anything, and he's losing more pylons than the natural. SOS against the ropes. This weird Terran army actually paying off in droves.
And his idea of how to come back is actually to go and kill more of the economy, but Kira's brought so many SCVs to the front line. They're mass repairing the battlecruiser that already has an insanely high armor, and the Stalkers are not piercing through.
That front line is gone. These Stalkers not enough. SOS exasperated. Going for the early play here with the Colossus, going for SCV, well, rather SCV damage there with the Zealots. But these aren't charged lots. They're not super scary, and I'm not sure Cure cares.
So many of the Stalkers are actually kind of weak, by the way. They did take damage even though they tried to evacuate at the last second. They're not doing well against the tanks, and there's not enough of them to do well with the battlecruiser. I mean, that was actually, how long was that? An hour?
About an hour, yeah. Game 1 was 60 or 70% of it.
Yeah. Well, now the question is, so we had one build that was not unorthodox, not like the battlecruiser build, but one build that was maybe a little like off standard. He could have gone for just the 2 barracks after the 1-1-1. He doesn't. He gets severely punished. You know, that macro did not work out there in game number 1. So game number 2, he brings in a weirder but also far more aggressive build. He wanted to do the push after the battlecruiser appeared. The battlecruiser not doing damage initially. You know, like obviously if it gets 6 probes, that's better, but it gets pulled away, and it's more about that push. Now the question is for game number 3, what does Cure do? Does he try and go back in a pure macro? Is he like, that aggressive thing works, so I gotta do that again? And if he's now thinking he's like, you know, molded into a type of Terran, is SOS gonna be able to figure him out and actually take game number 3?
I mean, it did, it feels so rare to be able to, I've got to fix my language here because I nearly went full Australian and swore. But don't cheese a cheeser, let's say, or don't be weird against the guy that's usually a weirdo. But Cure managed to pull it off. And I think the really clutch moment there was picking off that observer that was getting into his main, seeing the ripple and the Marine's position and picking it off. Getting away with it all. That
was absolutely perfect. I mean, the observer, yes, it's the most common spot to go through there. It can be picked off in a normal game where they're actually just doing, you know, 3cc or something like that. But it can also sometimes go around to the left and through the natural or right, very far to the right. And that could have ruined Cure's plan. SOS with a bit more mental preparation, having his units positioned against the tank push, less so about the battlecruiser, could have been a very, very big deal. But he also maybe didn't have the best build against it. The Colossus drop, I think, killing the SCVs and getting in the middle of the map, starting to burn down those Marines, could have actually been very useful, but just the SCVs going down was not enough.
And it does go Cyber Core first, just for safety, but it looks like a very standard build from SOS so far. Twilight Count's coming down. This Reaper, though, what is this Stalker doing? Get out there, you got one job, mate.
He's going for a second barracks.
2-on-1?
Yes. So so the factory is done. That's going to provide a little bit of safety. You know, there's a 2-on-1 in TVZ that I think we all know that is 2 barracks factory starport.
Yeah, there's a TVP version, of course, which is the multiple Tech Lab version. Hidden Dark Shrine, Crouching Protoss.
Yeah, he's been actually putting those pylons a bit aggressively, so Cure scouted the first time, didn't really end up mattering the second time. But this time, it's just straight up hidden in the very far bottom left. A Dark Shrine is hidden. Now, this is actually a little funny because a Widowmine drops scouts the lack of technology or straight up the Dark Shrine in the main in just enough time. But far more importantly, our Terrans, our professional Terrans, not us plebs on ladder, usually are saving a scan around 5 minutes, because that is a very common time for a 2-base Protoss, which SOS clearly is. So that is going to be very important, whether he has saved a scan at all, and then whether he can grab a scan on multiple DTs and not just one. And then, well, later we'll talk about the potential for a charge lot attack with Archons. But for now, how does he defend against those DTs?
Really is important for Cure to save up those scans, as you mentioned. Engineering Bay is on the way for Cure. Dark Shrine takes a long time to build, so there is potential for him to have turrets. This feels like the I just don't want to die Engineering Bay, but of course you can also get towards +1, which Terrans want to do at this point. So it sort of, you know, helps you out in both those regards here. But it really does matter. Like, we're actually just waiting with bated breath here on whether or not Cure is going to have scan energy. It goes for the turret.
Whoa, really? Like,
yes, immediately turret. Cure is so big-brained. And it's in an anti-DT spot.
He saw a Twilight Council, but it wasn't that it. Like, the vision here, he didn't actually get much else, because again, there was no Wood of Mine drop. He went for the 2-1-1.
Oh,
he literally saw it.
He literally saw the Dark Shrine. When did that happen? I guess the Reaper in the bottom left must have done it at some point.
I guess he did.
Long day for Marpu. It's okay, Kevin.
I mean, the point is he is totally prepared for this. And if he's prepared for the DTs, they don't do any damage, then he also might be considering that follow-up potential. So the next step is getting scouting on that 3rd base, or if it's mass charge lots. So they also should be paying attention to that. But this has not been good for SOS. See if he can make some magic.
Yeah, two DTs show up. And there's not really any turrets up here in the main. There is scan energy. They're going to get a few SCVs here, surprisingly. Cure does move forward that tank. The tank a little exposed, but he has stim. And that prism's deep. It needs to go to the top left. And he's okay.
Yeah, he's okay. And there's enough room there to just chill out, keep all those Marines back, actually, too, which is very annoying if, again, there was an attack on the front lines. But definitely not an attack. SOS got a 3rd Nexus. He's getting a Robo, getting a Forge. Does Cure have any scouting on that? I mean, we missed the Dark Shrine, but he still has those 2 speedy units. So kind of in the range of the missile turret. He still has 2 speedy units to try and check for that follow-up, which I think he hasn't done quite yet. Yeah,
the Reaper and the Hellion waiting for their time to shine, waiting for their commander's orders. No one does anything without their commanders say so in StarCraft 2. And he does get that Observer, so picking up Observers is a nice little thing here for Cure. It keeps SOS guessing a little bit on what the Terran is up to, when he's going to move out. Obviously, he knows about the Engineering Bay because there are turrets, and he does see it in the main base, so he knows that there is very likely going to be that +1 attack timing. He's going towards that 3rd base, but he has a Robotics Bay finishing up, so he can go directly into Colossi.
An additional tank on the way, not Widow Mines. I mean, it is so common to follow up with charge, either aggressively, well, definitely aggressively, but in this case, he did it defensively. They'll struggle against charge a lot, sure, but they can still help out for certain in a mass battle against those Colossus, which SOS is now headed towards, again, trying to deny as much information from SOS as possible, but I think SOS actually still has a very full idea of what's going on.
Yeah, certainly, and with the Colossus, you really can breathe a sigh of relief. You feel so much more comfortable against those bio-heavy pushes, even with tanks. And +1 attack, blink, all those make a lot of sense. They really complement the Colossi quite a bit. Cure hasn't gotten that 3rd base just yet. Looks like he's 2-basing a little bit harder here.
That's so frustrating to do, though, against someone who has a Warp Prism at all, basically.
And DTs.
Yeah, DTs are not, but certainly with DTs. It is frustrating to actually think that you can move out at all, much less that you pinned all your hopes and dreams on doing a successful attack. And that's exactly what he's going to do. He's going to pull SCVs, and it might be a little bit funny when we see DTs trying to do damage when there's so many on the front lines, but reinforcing can be very important for Cure's push.
A lot of Marines still in the main base trying to look for that Prism as well, so they are not going to be part of this push. All the boys are on the run here right now. Obviously, Marines aren't fantastic against Colossi. SOS wants to pick a fight right here. I love this, actually. Just try and get the Terran away from his infrastructure as long as possible. Take some swipes off of the SCVs. Cure's pre-spreading his units, though, trying to get rid of some of that splash damage.
Oh, this is so dangerous for Cure, because 1 DT at a time could also be brutal for him to work with. Trying to get up this ramp, also going to be particularly brutal. Oh, God, brutal. Archons are ready, and I am not sure about this from Cure.
He's got a bit of a concave down here. There's Colossus swiping at the Marines from the back line. The tank's actually doing a lot of damage here against the Archons and the Stalkers. The Colossus getting a little bit low. Big shell there on the North Colossus, but Cure has lost so many Marines.
Yeah, he lost most of his buffer for his tanks, and the 3rd tank wasn't even really helping at all on the bottom side. Can he actually rally enough here from his natural? Warp Prism tries to come back in. 1 DT is going to take away the rest of the economy, or try to at least. Cure actually going to head a different direction from that 3rd and try maybe to get on top of some production. It's not going to work out. He's on still going to be out. No, he's going to jump on top of the Colossus. No, he does not have enough. And this could be it. Kiera with his 2-base attack might have just lost the game in the series. He has.